What's up ladies, gentlemen, people, extraterrestrial aliens and everything in between. Today I will be sharing my opinion on the best player at every hero in the Overwatch League 2021 season. Feel free to state your opinions down in my comments as we will most likely disagree on at least a few picks. With that out of the way, let's get started. We will be going in order of which heroes appear first on the menu screen, which means first up is Diva. Diva was the most played character of the season, so as a result there were a lot of amazing Diva players this season. But there was no doubt in my mind that Hanbin was the best Diva. Fearless usually gets a lot of the credit for the Fuel's success this season, but he would honestly be nothing without Hanbin constantly backing him up and peeling for him. Hanbin's near-perfect matrix usage, eating ultimates at the most clutch moments, and amazing protective capabilities is what enables the front and back line of the Fuel to get so much done. He also outputs a ton of damage at the same time, holding the top final blow and damage rate on Diva. The perfect blend between a defensive and offensive Diva. A few runner-ups were Void, Space, Leitung, and Hawk, who all were very good on Diva as well. Hawk and Leitung in particular I did not expect to be as good as they ended up being, while Space and Void exceeded the already high expectations that I had of them. Next up is Orisa. Orisa didn't see a ton of playtime this season, but still a reasonable amount. Muse, Super, Gaga, Mono, Darn, Jungkook, and Gesture when he's having a good day are a few of the Orisa players that I thought stood out from the rest. But the top of the top Orisa players comes down to Fate and Gator. This was a very tough decision, as I think Fate does an amazing job of setting up his team with Halt combos, while Gator has amazing positioning and game sense of knowing where he needs to be and when. I've decided to go with Gator. Despite getting swept every time he played Fate on the Orisa, I think on an individual level Gator is slightly better. The way he sets up the rain DPS, with his halts, and positioning himself to do a ton of damage is so valuable to the rain, as he is the center of their signature bunker comps. Kai's Hanzo or Ashe, and Pelican's Echo wouldn't get nearly as much value without the assisting of Gator's Orisa. Moving on, let's talk about Reinhardt. This was a difficult one due to the fact that the best Rein was constantly changing throughout the season. In Stage 1 it was Jungkook, and I probably would have gone with him if it wasn't for the fact that the Outlaws kind of just stopped playing Rein comps after Stage 1. In Stage 2 Rein was banned, Stage 3 I'd say it's Mag, Stage 4 I'd go Super, and in playoffs I'd say Gator. But despite all four of these guys being incredible Rein players, I've decided to go with Fearless. Fearless was the only Rein who was consistently dominating throughout the season. His superhuman ability to always hit a big shatter at the right moment is beyond me. Remember that 5-map game against Atlanta in the Summer Showdown? It was the final map of Nepal 1-1 and 80-99 and Fearless hit the biggest shatter right before the rain could touch the point. Or how about that massive flanking shatter against the Dragons in the May Melee Finals? Or when he hit that massive 5-man shatter against Shock and cancelled FD God's Beat. The list of clutch moments just goes on. Not only that, but the sheer amount of damage he was able to output on Rein was also incredible. Top in final blow and elimination rate on Rein, and third in damage rate, while also having only 6.2 deaths per 10 minutes. That's pretty productive Rein play. Next up is Roadhog. Roadhog was barely even touched this season, so there's not much to work with. I'll say Gesture I guess, considering he was the only player who played Hog for more than 20 minutes, and off of last year's incredible Grand Finals run. Shout out to Dunn, Elsa, and Void though, who all picked up the Hog for a few brief moments and actually made for some pretty fun gameplay. Now to a slightly more relevant character, let's talk about Sigma. A few players used Sigma from time to time, but he overall didn't see a lot of playtime considering that Diva was the only relevant off-tank most of the time. But a few of the best Sigmas were Void, Hawk, Fury, Gargoyle, Space, Choi Hyobin, Hanbin, and Hotba. I have to go with Piggy though. Not only is he top in elimination and damage rate on Sigma, but he also blocks a lot of damage for his team and barely ever dies in the process. Think back to that game against the Shock in the Summer Showdown. Piggy was on Sigma the entire time and made it look easy as he rolled through them. The way Piggy balances every ability in Sigma's kit is beyond me. The guy is truly cracked on the Sig, always setting up his team for success. Now let's talk about Winston. There's only one answer and one answer only: fearless. This man redefined how to play Winston with his incredible primal rage mechanics and synergy with the rest of the fuel. He also was one of the only Winstons I've ever seen who manages to peel for the backline and do a ton of damage while using his primal. His bubble usage and jump packs are also perfectly timed. His MVP level Winston play is what carried the fuel to a first place finish in the May Melee, and second place finish in the June Joust. A few other Winstons that were pretty good are Smurf, Muse, Mag, Fate, Gaga, Gushway, and Jongu, but none compare to Fearless. Next we must talk about Wrecking Ball. It has to be Silver 3. This man was a crucial part of the Valiant's success this season, as he carried them on Wrecking Ball and his rolling around mechanics were amazing. But in all seriousness, the best Wrecking Ball comes down to Fate, Muse, and Gaga. A few other guys like Mag Mono and Fearless also had pretty good Wrecking Balls, but the Dragons, Gladiators and Hunters were the three best Wrecking Ball teams this season, so I have to go with them. Gaga started to fall off during the playoffs as his ball play slowly got worse, and Muse was never super good on the ball in the first half of the season, so I'll have to go with Fate. What he did in the June Joust finals for the Dragons is unforgettable. His piled River setups are what enable the rest of the Dragons to get so much work done, along with his amazing mechanics and synergy with the team. Fate is no doubt the best ball in the league. Despite starting off a bit slow, he got better very quickly and put on quite possibly the best Wrecking Ball play I've ever seen. And finally for the tanks we have Zarya Hopper, undeniably. His bubble usage is so incredibly precise, and it feels like he is always at high energy whenever the team needs him to be. He's carried entire fights and games for the Fusion when Carpe and DQO can't. A few runner-ups were Leitung, Hanbin, and Piggy who were all right behind him, but Michelle, Fury, 2U, Kalios, Burner, and Krong were also pretty good. Moving on to the DPS, we have Ashe. Ashe saw a decent amount of playtime from a few hitscan players. For me it comes down to Flora, Guangbong, Lip, Shy, BQB, Shockwave, Kai, Carpe, and Fitz. All 9 of these guys got to show off their amazing aim when given the chance to play Ashe. It was a very tough decision, but I go with Kai. Going off of his 2020 season with the Valiant and this season, Kai has always been a dominant force on the Ashe. It feels like whenever he gets to play the Ashe the Rain are unstoppable. His aim is picture perfect, positioning is always on point. He constantly hits a big dynamite at the right moment, building bobs so fast, and watching him play Ashe alongside Pelican's Echo is like poetry in motion. Bastion is up next, and there were only 2 players in the league who played him for over a minute, so there's not much to work with. I guess I'll go with Prophet, just because he is the only guy who played Bastion more than once, both times against the NYXL. Now to a character that actually received some playtime, it's time to discuss Cassidy. There were quite a few notable Cassidy players throughout the year. Lip, Birdring, Kai, Flora, Onigod, BQB, I'm 37, Shy, Happy, Carpe, Ons, and Striker before he retired were some of my favorites, but I have to go with Fitz. This one may be a weird take to some people, but I believe that Fitz was the most criminally underrated player of the season. What he did for the Seoul Dynasty was unforgettable and just doesn't get enough praise. During a lot of the Dynasty's biggest games Fitz was playing Cassidy, and putting in so much work. What I think he does better than any Cassidy in the league is using his incredible aim to deny value from his opponents. Whether it was Flutter's Farah in the Countdown Cup, or the Hunter's backline in the June Joust, or really any opponent, the Dynasty could always rely on Fitz's Cassidy to click on everyone's heads and shut down so much value from the enemy. Also, out of all the players with at least 3 hours of playtime on Cassidy, Fitz is first in damage rate, and top 5 in final blow and elimination rate. True, carry on the Cassidy, enough said. Next is Doomfist, and there are only 2 players who played him for more than an hour, Mirror and Sparkle, and out of these 2 it's definitely Sparkle. Mirror was a pretty good Doomfist as well, but Sparkle not only played it more, but I feel had a bigger impact on the game when playing. I mean, come on, it's one of Sparkle's signature characters. You already know what to expect when Sparkle switches over to Doomfist, sheer and utter domination. His mechanics, rollouts, and synergy with whatever Doha is playing are all amazing. The guy is a true legend. Now it's Echo time. There were so many amazing Echo players this season. Leave, Sparkle, Kefster, Doha, Nero, Pelican, Dante, Flater, Assassin, Naga, Prophet, Shy, the list just goes on. But out of all these amazing Echo players, I'd have to give it to Flater. His tracking with the sticky bombs, ability to turn fights with duplicate, and ability to always follow up on what the rest of the dragons offer him is out of this world. There's a reason the dragon tanks and supports put so many resources into his Echo. I personally thought he was the best Echo last year, and I still stand by it. The 2020 MVP getting some representation in 2021. Genji's up next, and it's another one for Sparkle. Basically everything I said about why Sparkle is the best Doomfist applies for why he is the best Genji, but there's just something about his blade usage that's so truly amazing. You can always rely on him to get tons of kills when he plays the Genji. Shoutouts go to Choice A1, Kefster, Valentine, Jinmu, Leave, Naiest, Doha, EQO, Architect, Eileen, and Ivy before he retired, who all ran a bit of Genji and were very fun to watch. Now for what was probably the hardest decision of the entire video, Hanzo. There were so many amazing Hanzo players this season. Kai, Doha, Leave, Hisu, Fitz, Birdring, BQB, Carpe, Onagod, Glister, Happy, I'm 37, Shy, Guangbung, Eileen, Decay, Sparker, Lip. It was such a hard choice. All of these guys had amazing moments on the Hanzo, but I eventually came to the conclusion that it's Leave. Hanzo, in my opinion, was one of his most impactful characters, single-handedly carrying fights with his incredible aim. Out of all players with at least 2 hours on Hanzo, he is top in final blow and elimination rate, along with third in damage rate, and second in solo kill rate. You just never know when Leave will hit the most nutty headshot and win a fight. Truly incredible Hanzo from this season's League MVP. Junkrat is up next, and only 2 players played him for more than 10 minutes, Jinmu and Jake, but based off stats Jake appears to be superior, so I'll go with him. The famous Junkrat pulled out the Junkrat 2 times this season, but those 2 times were still enough to satisfy. Now let's talk about Mei, and I gotta go with Pelican for this one. Mei was definitely one of his most impactful characters, as he is top in damage and final blow rate. You can just feel his impact on the game when he's on Mei, a crucial piece to the Reigns Rush comps that led them to the grand finals. Rookie of the Year power right here. Runner-ups are Doha, Rascal, Nero, Naga, Yaki, Dante, Assassin, and Kefster. Farah is up next, and for me there are 5 options. Jinmu, Flater, Sparkle, Naga, and Pelican. The guys who played Farah the most and in my opinion had the most impact on it. But we have to give it to Jinmu. The other guys were pretty amazing on it as well, but Jinmu just played it so much more. When it wasn't Leave putting the hunters on his back and carrying, it was Jinmu on the Farah. His rocket accuracy, high risk high reward playstyle, and overall knowledge of how to fly around and do a ton of damage at the same time is crazy. Think back to that 5-map game in the Summer Showdown knockouts against the Dynasty, or how about the reverse sweep against the Fusion? So many big games for the Hunters were won off of Jinmu's Farah. Reaper's up next, and I'm going with Lip. Sparkle, Doha, Decay, Edison, and Birdring were also pretty good on the Reaper, but I will never forget what Lip did on the Reaper in the June Joust Finals game. His stats are also pretty good, top in elimination and damage rate, third in solo kill rate, and I feel he was overall very efficient. He doesn't have as much playtime as Doha, but I feel Doha wasn't as impactful, but there isn't really much more to say here, because it's Reaper, you kind of just shoot what's in front of you. Moving on, we have Soldier 76. Basically no one played Soldier except for during hero pools when DPS players don't know what to play. I'll go with Flater just because he played Soldier the most, and found a decent amount of value on it. I remember him playing it against the Dynasty a few times, so there you go I guess. Sombra time, and the answer is so obvious, Lip. His MVP level Sombra play is the glue that holds the Dragon's Ball comps together. Top in elimination and damage rate, with only 2.8 deaths per 10 minutes. You can just see it in his gameplay, his ability to build EMPs so quickly, and his manual hacks always getting value. He may have started off a bit slow in the melee, but he quickly improved into a legendary Sombra player. Now it's Symmetra time. Symmetra got a surprisingly high amount of playtime this season considering she was mostly just a gimmicky rare to see pick in previous seasons. It was nice to see a lot of players pulling out the sim. The guys who stood out on the sim for me were Sparkle, Edison, Decay, Happy, Glister, and Only God. But out of all these guys I'm going with Decay. This one may be a hot take, as I was originally going to go with Sparkle, but upon further research I realized that Decay has a much bigger impact on it. We all know how mechanically skilled Decay is, his tracking with the beam and aim with the orbs is out of this world. His stats prove this as well, as he is top in final blow, damage and solo kill rate, and second in elimination rate. I will say though, his Symmetra is more solo carry style while someone like Sparkle is a little more team oriented with the sim. As a result his teleports aren't as impactful, but they are still pretty good. Next up is Torbjorn, and only 3 players played Torb for more than an hour, Pelican, Valentine and Nero. For me it comes down to Nero and Pelican, but I give the slightest edge to Pelican. Nero had an amazing Torb as well, but I feel Pelican had a more consistent playstyle and better aim with the blaster. He is also slightly better on every main damage dealing stat, and I feel he did a very good job of playing an anti-dive style of Torb that was really frustrating to deal with for teams like the Fuel. Tracer is next, and there were way too many amazing Tracer players this season. Kefster, Flater, Lip, Decay, Dante, Pelican, Edison, Shax, Dalton, Flora, Yaki, Carpe, Glister, Nero, Sparkle, Prophet, Aspire, Choice A1, the list is too long, but there's only one answer to go with here, Leave. The league MVP himself put the hunters on his back when playing Tracer. The things this guy did on Tracer are unlike anything I've ever seen. His aim and solo carry playstyle are out of this world. His ability to just carry entire fights all on his own is incredible, and it feels like every time he plays, he always has a big highlight or frag. Out of all players with at least 3 hours on Tracer, he is top in final blow, elimination, and damage rate. He even pulled off a Flater deadlift with the Tracer against the Fuel on Volskaya. I could go on for days about how incredible Leave's Tracer is, but you get the idea. Finally for the DPS we have Widowmaker, a character who barely saw any playtime, with only 5 players playing Widow for more than an hour. For me the best Widows were Kai, Lip, Carpe, Jimmy, Happy, and Fitz, but I'm going to have to go with Jimmy for this one. Despite not playing for the second half of the season, he was the only guy who consistently played the Widow and has the most playtime on it. His aim was pretty nasty, he would hit some pretty ridiculous headshots, but besides that there's not much more to say. Now for the supports, and first up is Ana, and there are a few options here. Monk for his incredible game sense and amazing positioning, Fielder for the amount of healing he outputs, Alarm for his incredible sleep darts and anti-nades, Shu for his high damage rates, and Izayaki who I am going with. All of the other Ana players have different skill sets with Ana, but Izayaki in my opinion is the most consistent Ana player in terms of all of those skill sets. He outputs a lot of healing, does a lot of damage, hits some really impactful sleeps and anti-nades, and has great game sense and positioning. Overall very impactful and well paced with his Ana play. Baptiste is next, and there is only one answer, Shu. This guy is the definition of a bloodthirsty support who craves nothing but the blood of his enemies. Listen to these stats, first in elimination, final blow, and damage rate on Bap, and his damage per 10 minutes on that character is nearly 6,000. That's a pretty incredible amount of damage to be outputting considering Bap is a support. I mean the guy is so clutch on the Bap as well. Remember that Havana flank in the Countdown Cup finals, the Gladiators probably would have lost that game if it wasn't for Shu and his incredibly clutch Bap flank. Guy is a legend, but shoutouts go to Iris, Fielder, Izayaki, Kon, and Crimzo, who were all pretty good Bap players as well. Now to everyone's favorite character, Brigitte, and it definitely comes down to Lee Jae-gon, Skewed, and Yveltal. Lee Jae-gon played it the most. Yveltal has the best stats, but in my opinion Skewed had the biggest impact on the game, so I gotta go with him. You can just feel the impact of Skewed's Brig on the game. His whip shot accuracy is so clean, always knocking away big threats. I don't think I've ever seen him miss a whip shot. His ability to peel for Shu whether he's on the Bap, Zen, or Ana, and that's the point I want to highlight the most. Skewed's ability to peel. The way he body blocks damage with his shield and tanks so much damage is really impactful. He's like a human shield. His stats are not as good as Yveltal's, but stats don't tell the whole story with this guy. Such a cracked player. Lucio is up next, and it comes down to Lee Jae-gon, Jexay, and Masa. All three of these guys played a pretty nasty Lucio, but I will eliminate Lee Jae-gon because sometimes it felt like he was a little over-aggressive. His over-aggression wasn't as bad as last season, but he still died a little more than the other guys. Now we are down to Jexay and Masa, but honestly, I feel like Jexay was a little too passive at times. During certain points of the Fuels games it felt like Jexay wasn't really doing enough damage. I know this one is gonna be a hot take to a lot of people, but I'm actually going with Masa as my best Lucio. What I think Masa nails in the head about how to play Lucio is that blend between that aggressive selfish kill-hungry Lucio playstyle, and the passive team-oriented speed and heal the team Lucio playstyle. Both of these playstyles are good, but only good in specific moments, and it feels Masa is the master of knowing which playstyle he needs to fit and when. He's not afraid to go for a cheeky environmental kill, he's not afraid to take matters into his own hands and do a ton of damage, yet he manages to do it without being overly aggressive, which is something not a lot of Lucios can do. Masa is so underrated and I have to give him some representation here, because he was the unsung carry of the Reign's Grand Finals run. Next is Mercy, and I'm going with Lee Jae-gon. I said previously that the Dragons invest a lot of resources into Flater's Echo, and Lee Jae-gon's Mercy is one of those resources. The way he enables Flater's Echo and Farah is pretty incredible. He is top in healing rate, with second place being over 400 healing shorter, but he also is pretty efficient with the damage boost, amplifying a lot of damage throughout matches. Considering the way last year's finals went, Lee Jae-gon has taken a big step up in his Mercy play, because let's be honest, in last year's finals he was feeding a lot on Mercy, but he has improved so much it's ridiculous. Shoutouts go to Nisha and Yveltal, who were also very good Mercies. Moira time, and I'm just gonna go ahead and give it to Fielder. Not a lot of people even bothered playing Moira. The only other guys to play Moira much were Bebe, Izayaki, Violet, Gangnamjin and Iris, who I'll say are runner-ups, but Fielder not only has a lot more playtime on Moira than anyone else, but he is top in elimination and healing rate. He outputs approximately 21,000 healing per 10 minutes on Moira. That's insane, all while only dying 4.5 deaths per 10 minutes. He also builds his coalescence at such a fast rate, it feels like every fight he has his coal. Something about the way he balances healing and damage is really valuable to the Fuel's fast-paced playstyle. And finally, last but not least, we have Zenyatta. A few of the best Zens for me were Crimzo, Lestro, Monk, Shu, Kon and Alarm, but I think you guys already know where I'm going with this. It is undoubtedly Izayaki. This guy was looking like Jonak Violet and Jaehong in their prime, top in final blow and elimination rate, along with third in damage and healing rate, all while only having 5.2 deaths per 10 minutes. The things this guy was doing on Zen were absolutely ridiculous. His aim was so incredible, he'd get so many kills, his transcendence usage was very good compared to last year, he would always pop it at the right moment, his Discord orbs were very well coordinated with the rest of the dragons to do a lot of damage, his harmony orbs were very clutch at saving teammates and his positioning was always on point. No way the Dragon's Ball comps are as dominant as they are without his hierarchy popping off on that signature Zen of his. Well, there you go everyone, that's my opinion on the best player at every hero in the Overwatch League 2021 season. Thank you so much for watching and remember to like, subscribe, and comment some of your picks for the best player at every hero, and until next time, goodbye.